What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and we have a very special episode because, believe it or not, we're only a week away from the final football game of the NFL season. It's the Super Bowl, and for any Jets fan out there, it is another miserable experience for us where the New England Patriots, our heated rivals, are back in the Super Bowl for the 50th year in a row against our former number 3 overall pick, Sam Darnold, and our number 6 overall pick, Leonard Williams, to hopefully bring down this Patriots nation. Oh, my God. But to talk all about it, unfortunately, I don't know many Seahawks fans, so I have 2 Patriot fans to help join me go through not only how the Patriots got here, but then going through an overview of what is this game going to look like, who's going to win, some predictions, things like that. So I am very excited to have these 2 gentlemen here with me. First, I'm going to talk about somebody and introduce somebody who is actually one of the OG listeners to the Juicy Jet podcast. I think this is his first time ever joining, though, so it's a big moment for him, of course. But Dave, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Firstly, Kevin, thank you so much for having me. As you said, longtime listener, loyal liker, commenter. When I say I've been a Pats fan since birth, I truly mean it. So my dad, who you've talked ball with multiple times, he's had Pats season tickets since the 70s, way back when he had to beg people to come join him at Schaefer Stadium, Foxborough Stadium, all the way back. So he was actually supposed to be on his way to, believe it or not, a Pats Seahawks game at Foxborough Stadium way back in '93 on a Sunday. But instead, him, my mom, had to head to the hospital, and yours truly was born on that same Sunday. Don't check the score of that game, by the way. So fast forward to my wedding this past spring. Both my vows, my best man speech mentioned the Pats, and instead of your typical guest book, you can actually see it here in the background. We opted for a full XXL Patriots jersey. Everybody signed, including you, Kevin. Very proudly signed it right in the bottom corner. And yeah, so safe to say my mental health. You were proud. There's picture proof of it. So it's safe to say my mental health is kind of heavily influenced by the Pats. In fact, it was that, I think, mutual, borderline unhealthy obsession with football that led the 2 of us to become such close friends. Surprisingly, we were never really hostile, despite spending countless Sundays, watching ball together. So although I did realize something preparing for this episode, I want to inform you of a little statistic. So since we met back in 2012, the Jets have not made the playoffs. So I'm hoping that means you're not going to sacrifice our friendship for a Jets playoff appearance. We safe?
I would sacrifice anything for a Jets playoff appearance, so joke's on you.
That's fair. That's fair. But, I have to admit, and this might be controversial coming from a Pats fan, but I truly and deeply want the Jets to win just one singular Super Bowl in our lifetime, because I know it will undoubtedly be the best day of your entire life, never to be topped by promotions, weddings, childbirth, anything. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will be one of the first to congratulate you. So thanks again for having me, Kevin.
Well, I'll die right afterward. That'll just be it. So it'll be over.
Kevin's heart will explode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, it's great to have you. Thank you for joining. Speaking of hostile, one of the most hostile friends when it comes to Boston fanhood. He's brash. He's one of those typical Boston sports fans. Michael, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate having you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Kevin. I will definitely say the brashness has toned down over the years. But what Kevin is very explicitly referring to is we've been friends since freshman year of college, all the way back in 2010, which actually gave me one of my worst days as a Patriots fan. When the Jets and Mark Sanchez beat the Patriots in the divisional round of the 2010-2011 playoff season. And I just remember Kevin barging into my dorm room that year and just screaming for about 20 minutes straight after that game, because the entire season we were back and forth between the Jets and the Pats. So it started out strong, and it's never really left that up until this year, which I've really coined myself to be what I now term, credit to one of my friends, an independent football advisor. And while I am a loyal Boston sports fan, I approach everything from an independent perspective, giving you nothing but an unbiased view.
Yeah, well, let's hear what happens the rest of this episode and see if that rings true. I highly doubt it. Oh man. Well, it's good to have both of you. This is actually really hilarious and amazing. And for anyone listening, we are sipping some beverages. It is a Sunday without football, so we're going to try to recreate it while we talk about it and have a couple beers. So feel free to join us if you are listening in, just not on your commute to work tomorrow. All right, so I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about with this game. First of all, I didn't realize this before we started recording, but this is the 11-year anniversary of the Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl, where, of course, the final play with Russell Wilson, for some reason, throwing instead of running and handing it off to Marshawn Lynch, and the Patriots end up winning with the Malcolm Butler interception. Funny part to tie back to the Jets on this, Darrell Bevell was the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks at the time, was on a meteoric rise. That call absolutely tanked his career, and next week he's interviewing in person to be the Jets' offensive coordinator. So it all ties back. What a disaster. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Patriots and how this all started. So before this season, obviously, there was a lot of debate about who the head coach was going to be. You had Gerard Mayo, who is a Patriots legend. Robert Kraft handpicked him to be the successor to Bill Belichick. And then it was a couple days into coaching searches where Vrabel was interviewing other places, including the Jets. And then all of a sudden, you guys fire Gerard Mayo and take on Mike Vrabel. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that whole scenario. I guess my question is, do you think the only reason you fired Gerard Mayo is because Vrabel was out there? And was it a lock that you were going to get him? So maybe, Michael, we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
No, I think you actually just hit the nail on the head there, Kevin. I think the entire franchise was bought into Gerard Mayo at the time when he replaced Bill Belichick. As you mentioned, he was handpicked by Kraft to succeed Belichick, and they did multiple promotions over the previous years to ensure that he stayed with the organization until Belichick finally hung up the coaching gear. And then the first season, I think it was a mixed bag with Gerard Mayo. Of course, he came into a difficult environment. There was a severe void of talent on the roster, and he struggled. But I think what really showed through in that season is that he struggled as a coach as well, and that he wasn't necessarily ready to be in that top lead man job. He's a very player-friendly coach. All the players loved him. He was very soon out of retirement himself. And he was too friendly of a player coach, and he wasn't instilling that culture that the Patriots needed to bring ourselves out of the lack of talent void that we were in at that point. And so then I think the moment that Vrabel became available, I think it was a no-brainer call for the Kraft family. Vrabel is a Patriot guy through and through, played for us, won Super Bowls with us. And having that caliber of a coach after seeing what he did with the Tennessee Titans made it an easy choice to replace somebody who was just getting off the ground.
Yeah, and for me, we were going through a coaching search at the same time. Vrabel was my number one option. I was like, he just was able to take their team to the playoffs multiple times with a terrible ownership group. He'd fit right in with us. Like, that'd be perfect.
And a mediocre QB. He did all
exactly.
that with Ryan Tannehill as his QB.
Exactly.
You can't say any more than that.
Yeah, he worked wonders there. I guess, Dave, for the other side of this, do you think Kraft got scared? Do you think he saw him out there and that's why he waited a little long in order to bring Vrabel over?
Yeah, so I think it was funny. Back when Vrabel got inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame in 2023, this was while he was still employed by the Titans. His acceptance speech came off like a guy who was angling for the Pats head coaching job while Belichick was still coaching. It just seemed, the tone of his message just seemed a little too friendly. Kraft, obviously, arm around him, happy-go-lucky. So I think if it wasn't for, actually, believe it or not, a mission trip to Israel, which has been quoted, there's been stories about this, Robert Kraft actually mentioned that moment as when he knew that Gerard Mayo would be Bill's successor. Even led to a secret written agreement that only really came out when they started to interview candidates after Belichick. Nobody knew about this written agreement. It just so happened since they had that agreement, they could kind of go around some of the typical hiring rules. So I think Mike Vrabel probably would have been the Patriots head coach last season if it wasn't for this secret written agreement and Robert Kraft seeing the way Gerard Mayo handled himself on that mission trip with different players. And, that kind of led us to last season. And as Mike said, it really was about as disastrous as you could have possibly hoped for or not hoped for. So On the field, the team, they looked dysfunctional, they looked disinterested, and even worse, they just looked like they quit. And then off the field, it was very clear that Gerard Mayo has never really been in the limelight in front of the microphone. He put his foot in his mouth numerous times, even called his own team soft, which he then backtracked on that, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. The damage was already done. So I have to say that I give Kraft credit for incurring what he called recently, actually, at the owners' meetings, the worst financial implications since he's owned the team, because he had to pay, obviously, Mayo for the years of his contract, all of Mayo's assistants that he had hired. So a large financial toll, but I think as soon as he saw Mike Vrabel available, I think, as Mike had said, it was a no-brainer to make the move to Vrabel.
I have no sympathy that the poor owner, who's a multi-billionaire and never had to fire a coach in his entire life, had to pay somebody else. Sorry, Kraft. No, but that totally all makes sense. I'm a huge fan of Mike Vrabel, and I'm very sad that he's back in New England because now I can't root for him, obviously. But tell me, going into this season, so obviously you guys spent a ton of money in free agency. I think you had like $90 million. It seemed like you paid for everybody. You brought on one of my favorite Jets was Morgan Moses, the right tackle. He's a little old. He gets hurt every now and then, but man, he's just a good culture guy for that team. But you get to the first game of the year. What were the expectations? I don't know many Patriots or Seahawks fans that expected either one of their teams to be in the Super Bowl. Obviously, they thought they were going to be good, but what did you guys think? Dave, we'll go back to you again. What'd you think going into this year?
Yeah, so fast forward to the Vrabel hire before the season. I did expect to challenge for a wild card. Did I expect to win the division, go to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. I'm not going to lie to you and say that. As you mentioned, the Pats, they had money to burn, and boy, did they use it. And looking back on it now, I think each and every free agent signing, except for a couple tweeners for small money, they were hits. The big ticket guys, the Milton Williams, Stephon Diggs, Bob Spillane, Morgan Moses, Harold Landry, Carlton Davis, all the way to kind of the lower profile guys that those signings kind of got swept under the rug, didn't get as much publicity. The Garrett Bradburys, the Jack Gibbons, Kyrus Tonga, Caleb Chason, Mac Hollins. Every single one of those guys has made an impact this year. It's frankly unprecedented. And as we mentioned before, Vrabel has always had a tendency to get the most out of his team, despite never having the most talent-rich roster. Obviously, he had one of the greatest running backs in the history of the league in Derrick Henry, but he had Marcus Mariota at quarterback. He had Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. He had a couple good players on defense, but ultimately he just had a lot of guys that bought in to the culture that he set, and everyone marching to the beat of the same drum and creating a more disciplined program. So I really did expect improvement across the board, but by no means did I expect to be talking to you this week about the Pats in the Super Bowl.
Mr. Independent Advisor, what are your thoughts?
I just want to go back to one thing that Dave said and really just echo that in. While his list of great signings was a lot of names, and it was a long list there, I would argue only one or two of those, really Milton Williams and Stephon Diggs, were the only two flashy signings that we had this entire offseason. Everybody else was a role player that Vrabel knew would fit a role in his system. And I think that's the difference maker in terms of turning around a program from a 3-14 team to a 14-3 team, is building that depth up and down your roster of names that aren't going to generate all the publicity when you make the signing, but when it comes to on-field play, really turns around the program. What I would say in terms of my expectations, so it's funny, my brother actually sat down before the first Pats game of the season. We were sitting at a brewery. It was my brother's baby shower, and my brother and my brother-in-law were sitting at a brewery right next door, and we mapped out our entire season of what we thought our record would be. And I was hard at 11-6, and my brother and brother-in-law were hard at 12-5. Just looking through the schedule, which is by the NFL's design, we had a good-looking schedule coming up in front of us. And that is by virtue of the NFL's design to increase parity by having all of the last-place teams from the previous year play the last-place teams of the divisions they're not playing. And so when you looked at it from that lens point, you go through the list, and we really only thought that there was 5 to 6 games that we realistically were looking at potential losses, and those were games like Buffalo, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Bengals, and then you anticipate at least one other divisional game just not falling your way. And so I agree with Dave. I thought we were going to be fighting for a wild card spot. I thought the Bills were going to take the AFC East again, and I thought we were going to be fighting for a wild card spot with a tough road in the playoffs. And so I agree. I would be lying to you if I ever thought we would be 14-3 sitting here looking at a Super Bowl. But I think that's a credit to Vrabel and what he did with the roster.
Yeah, and I think
one thing
okay.
to add on to what Mike just said there, Vrabel said something in his opening press conference that it was one of those phrases you don't hear a head coach say often. He said that he wanted to have a team good enough to take advantage of bad football. He didn't say, I want to have a team that's going to light it up 40 points a week, turn the ball over. He just started at the ground level because he looked at the team from the past with Mayo in the last year of Bill, and frankly, he said, I don't think they're good enough to take advantage of bad football yet. And I think it's safe to say that he accomplished that and then some. His high-profile players, the Drake Mays, the Stephon Diggs, the Milton Williams, the Will Campbells, they consistently go out of their way. I think Will Campbell even said he never wants to play for another coach, which his agent is probably not thrilled that he had said that. But it's just kind of a compliment to his coaching style, his command of the team. And knowing that this is just year one of the Vrabel era, I know it brings a smile to my face. I'm sure it brings a smile to the unbiased football journalist we have here, Mike. And I'm sure it brings a frown to your face, Kevin.
Yeah, it's tough, but I think something you guys said that I can relate back to the Jets that has been a problem for decades is the fact we don't have the depth, and then we rely on free agency to be the thing that carries the team, where it's let's go get the big flashy signing and hope they're the best player in football. And that it just hasn't happened over the past 15 years, and it's been a massive problem.
There's only so many football players that can take over a game, right?
Totally.
When you really think about football being designed as a team sport, these big flashy players, while they can put up incredible stats, a lot of times it's a reflection of the team that's surrounding them as well. You take somebody who puts up those incredible stats, put them with a team that doesn't have the support, they're not going to be able to do that. And that's what I think a big fallacy of free agency really has been recently.
Yeah, and I think with the salary cap going up, I think they reported this week that it was between $301 million, $305, something like that. Free agency is not going to become as big of a thing anymore. Everyone's going to be re-signing their young, studs and talent. Like Will Campbell might not have to play for another head coach ever in his life because of, how much money you can actually dish out to these guys. So, yeah, it's really interesting. Now, one thing you guys talked about was, I think, Michael, you mentioned this, the teams you played. Now, a big argument out there, I'm not going to say I've said anything, I'm just going to say out there in the Twitter sphere, whatever you want to call it, is that the Patriots have had the easiest road to the Super Bowl in NFL history. Defend why, or why not, they do or don't have the easiest road to the Super Bowl. Dave, you go first.
All right, sounds good. So, Kevin, Mike, let's go through a bit of an exercise here. I don't think this has ever been done on an episode of the Juicy Jet. As a longtime listener, I'm fairly confident of that. It's called Blind Resume. So, Blind Resume. Team A has gone up against the number 20th, and number 17th ranked total defenses in yards per game, while Team B has gone up against the 5th, 1st, and 3rd. So your listeners, the listeners of the Juicy Jet are smart. I want everyone to go down in those comments on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. Put the path A, 20, 20, 17, or B, 5, 1, 3 that you feel was an easier path. Kevin, Mike, which path would you prefer? A or B?
Would I prefer to play? I would
Correct.
prefer to play against
the easiest
A.
path.
Yeah.
Correct. Right? So,
Absolutely.
Path A, believe it or not, is the path that the Seahawks took to get here. Because I'm considering that Week 18 game against the 49ers, it was largely a playoff game. That victory earned them the 1 seed, got them the bye. They faced the Niners, and the Rams, the 20th, and 17th ranked total defenses. Team B, on the other hand, that's the New England Patriots. They faced the 5th ranked defense in total yards, the 1st ranked defense, and the 3rd ranked defense. Have they faced a murderer's row of quarterbacks in the playoffs? Absolutely not. But they made all three of those quarterbacks look lost, confused, downright replacement level. So, another little factoid for you. If the Pats are to beat the Seahawks next Sunday, they will have beaten the one, two, and three ranked defenses in points allowed per game, which is statistically, I'm a numbers guy. Kevin, Mike, I think you guys know numbers as well. That is statistically the most difficult defensive road a team has ever faced in the playoffs, and it's not even debatable.
I like it. Michael, what do you say?
Siegel, yeah, I mean, you beat me to it. Everybody thinks that. Look, again, being an independent football advisor here, I'm not going to say that it's been the most difficult route to the Super Bowl at the end of the day, because as Kevin mentioned, the slate of quarterbacks that we've been up against that are alongside those defenses are, as Dave said, basically played at a replacement level of football. And so I'm not going to argue that it's not been the hardest path, but it's been the path that we've been dealt. We don't get to choose who we play week in and week out. We can only go against the team that we are scheduled to play that week, and every week we've come out on top in the playoffs. The game of football, you have to score more points than the opposing team. It's as simple as that. And we did that against those top five defenses, and our offense was enough to score more points than their opposing offenses were able to score against us. It's as simple as that. Is it a murderer's row? Absolutely not. But were they good overall balanced team victories? Absolutely.
Interesting. Interesting to hear. Now, from my perspective, if you told me I had to play against the Cleveland Browns 17 times in a row and I went to the Super Bowl, I will relentlessly rip everyone to shreds saying I'm in the Super Bowl. Joke's on you. So I'm in the same boat as you guys where who cares? Like, you made it this. It's very hard to get to the Super Bowl. If you think about it, there's like 12 teams in the NFL who have never won a Super Bowl. There's multiple who haven't even been to a Super Bowl. So stop pretending this is an easy road. It's not. And as someone who has been waiting my whole life for one of my teams to win any championship ever, I definitely feel how difficult it is. So with that, let's get into the game. So I wrote down a few matchups, and what I want to do is hear a little bit about what you guys' initial thoughts are on the game, how you're feeling about it, where you think you can get an advantage, where you think you're at a disadvantage. Some of the things that I was thinking about going into this was obviously the Pats O-line against the Seahawks D-line. I'd love to hear a little bit about Will Campbell, too, what you guys think about how he's played, because it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. The Pats corners against JSN, how are they going to approach that? Kenneth Walker versus the Pats' really good run defense. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore coming up the middle against those Seahawks guards, put pressure on Sam. And then, of course, like coaching experience, special teams, things like that. So I threw out a couple things there. If there's anything you want to cling on to, go ahead. If you have some other matchup of your own that you want to talk about, I'm here for it. So, Michael, let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I look, to win this game, I think there's two main focuses from my point of view. It's limiting the Seahawks offense by stopping the run and Kenneth Walker. I think losing Charbonnet was a big blow to the Seahawks at the end of the day, and now they're down to just Kenneth Walker on the ground game. And the Patriots have one of the strongest rush defenses in the NFL. And so we need to stop the run, and then we need to bracket JSN and have him in double coverage the entire game, and let the other receivers on the Seahawks beat you, whether it's Shaheed or Cup.
Can I ask you about that? So who are you bracketing? Is Christian Gonzalez with JSN, or is he on his own island and you're bracketing with Carlton Davis and someone else?
Bracketing with Carlton Davis and a safety over the top on JSN every single play, and let Gonzalez take out either Shaheed or Cup.
I like it. That's how the Jets used to operate with Revis back in the day. Cromartie and a safety on the number one, Revis on the other side. I love it. Dave, do you agree? Are there any other things that you think stand out?
Yeah, so I think it sounds cliche because I feel like most big games come down to this, but it really is the trenches on both sides of the ball. If the Pats front can get pressure on Darnold the way they have on Herbert, Stroud, and Stidham, I like their chances. Milton Williams and Christian Barmore have been unblockable in the playoffs, and I think that will continue in the Super Bowl. And I expect the defense to stop Kenneth Walker because I have no reason to think they won't. They've stopped and shut down running backs all year. the Devon Achans, the Bijan Robinsons, the James Cooks. They've shut those guys down pretty easily as long as Milton Williams has been healthy, which he will be for the Super Bowl. And combine that with you just simply cannot go man to man with JSN. The entire Seahawks offense is get him in single man on man coverage, and then he wins every time. He beats anyone. I love Christian Gonzalez. He's an all pro level talent. I do not like our chances with that matchup. I do think they have to build a box around JSN. A tight zone coverage is kind of where I'm thinking they might land with that, because teams have been trying all year to go man on man with JSN, and it just does not work. They put him all the way across the line, inside, outside, everywhere. Their entire offense is funneled through him for good reason. He's uncoverable. So I think that pressure up the middle, the way they have throughout the playoffs, couple that with a tight zone coverage with at least 4 eyes, 2 sets of eyes on JSN at all times, and I think the Pats D will keep the Seahawks offense in check.
What about
Last
Sam Darnold?
one for you, Kevin?
Yeah, go ahead.
And it goes right into him. It's going to be winning the turnover battle. It's a simple concept in football at the end of the day. And it's by winning the turnover battle will materially change this game. Whoever has better starting field position by virtue of those turnovers is going to score more points. And the Patriots were top 10 in turnovers in terms of lowest number of turnovers this year. The Seahawks were 31st, the second most turnovers in the NFL. And so if the Patriots defense, as Dave said, can do to Sam Darnold what we did to Herbert, what we did to Stroud, what we did to Stidham, then it's going to put him in positions where he's throwing the ball where he doesn't want to be throwing the ball. And those turnovers are going to make the difference in this game.
I still can't believe what I watched with Justin Herbert in that first playoff game. He looked lost. Stroud looked like the worst quarterback I've ever seen. And I've seen some very bad quarterbacks, as you guys all know. And that was a disaster. So, yeah, the Patriots defense is legit. It is funny, too. Like, I'm rocking the Darnold. I'm here. I'm rocking it. Darnold, I need to say this for all the Jets fans out there. We like Sam Darnold. I don't think anybody here has a bad thing to say about Sam Darnold because he's never said a bad thing about us. Most other people leave and they say the Jets are the worst run organization ever, all that stuff. For him, what's been amazing is how much he's changed from a very high turnover-prone quarterback where pressure would always drive him nuts. You know, the seeing ghosts game is a great example. To now, pressure comes at him and he actually performs better. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all works in the Super Bowl when the lights are the brightest and there's so much pressure on him. But I'm rooting for little Sammy because we love him. All right.
But he struggled under pressure. He still has even this year. I mean, he lost that first game against the Rams. And that's his calling card is can he rise to the moments where he knows that the pressure is the highest? And it's always historically been against whether it's an interdivisional rival, like back on the Jets with the Patriots or now in the NFC West against Stafford and the Rams. And so is he going to revert back into that old Darnold once he's facing the Patriots again with all those memories and the scars, every clickbait out there of he's seeing ghosts leading up to this game?
Yeah. I hope for his own mental health that doesn't happen, and this could be a good, clean game, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. One interesting stat that I found going into this game, because I'm really interested to see what happens with the special teams. There's only been 3 teams in the NFL that have gotten both a kick return and punt return touchdown this year. 2 of them are in the Super Bowl, and can you guess which one the third is? It is the New York Jets. So, yeah, you either go to the Super Bowl or you only win 3 games. There's no middle ground. All right, what do you guys think would have to go wrong? Like, what's the thing that if you lost this game and you look back, you're like, well, the reason we lost is because of this thing. Is there anything that stands out to both of you? Dave, you go first.
Yeah, I think we can we'll pivot over to with the Patriots on offense. So going back to the trenches, they need to control the line of scrimmage. They need to be able to identify and adjust to the stunts that Seattle have been torturing teams with all season. And if they're going to try to establish the run, which against the Seahawks is going to be extremely difficult, run away from Byron Murphy because he flat out terrifies me. The guy seems like he just willingly invites double teams, which is crazy because he's only like 300 pounds playing defensive tackle because he knows he can handle them, usually beats them, and it frees up the likes of, DeMarcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu, your old friend Leonard Williams. So if they're going to establish the run, I would like them to try to go outside. I know Travion has been largely an afterthought throughout the playoffs, but with him, as we've seen all year, it's either no yards or 30 to a house call. So maybe he busts one to the outside, gets around those, strong defensive tackles in the middle. And I do think that Drake May's legs, again, have to be a factor here. But one thing that I would like to see out of him, if his first read isn't there in the pocket, I wouldn't mind him moving outside of the pocket, enable those kind of off-script sort of splash plays that he's been doing so well all year, throwing on the run, or obviously if he sees the lane, run at it. But please, for the love of God, identify Nick Emanwari as well, because he is an alien. I've never seen a guy that young run block, pass rush, cover with his size and strength and speed. So just maybe go away from him, go away from Byron Murphy. If those things go the opposite way and Byron Murphy is taking those double teams, he's getting pressure up the middle, DeMarcus Lawrence, that defensive backfield that is so elite, starts being aggressive with our receivers, I think we could be in trouble on the offensive side of the ball. And as we know, Drake has had some trouble with turnovers throughout the playoffs. So if that Seahawks D starts to get humming and they just keep building off of that momentum, I think we could have a little bit of difficulty on the offensive side of the ball. But it's all about establishing those trenches and hopefully establishing the run to the outside if possible.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Michael, do you agree? Do you have something else that you think would go wrong?
Couldn't agree more. I think ultimately the only way, the biggest way that the Patriots can lose this game is if they just don't get into a rhythm on offense. And I think what the most important thing there is going to be is not being afraid to pass it on first and second downs and not playing a predictable ball game. When you're rushing against this defense, there's going to be a lot of 1 and 2 yard rushes. You can't go back to back first and second down short yardage rushes that then leaves you in third and long positions. And it's the same thing on the Seahawks side, right? If they get into that ball game where they're entering in with a lot of third and longs, they were 31st in the NFL with a third and long ahead of them this year. And so that's how the Patriots need to control the trenches on the defensive side, by forcing them into third and longs. But equally, we have to avoid getting into third and longs ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And I think you watched Drake May over the past couple playoff games, and he's won games with his legs, not necessarily with his arms, almost lost games with turnovers. So it's been really interesting. But I think he's been very impressive.
This will be his first playoff. In fairness, this will be his first playoff game that he doesn't have weather implicating the game as well. The 3 playoff games that the Patriots have played so far, all 3 have had weather impacts. Totally. And that's really impacted the offense from really getting into that early rhythm and letting Drake May throw the ball downfield where he really excels in terms of being one of the best downfield passers.
Do we know, is weather sunny and nice for Super Bowl?
Kevin, I did look that up yesterday because we're getting close to the point of being able to believe weather forecasters. And as of yesterday, we're looking at 50s and partly cloudy. So we should be okay there in Santa Clara. We should be.
Good to hear. All right, let's do one fun one before we get into final predictions. So I asked you both to come up with, if we were putting together a parlay, what's one random piece of the parlay that you would want to throw in there? Michael, I will go to you first. What do you think?
Over Cooper Kupp receiving yards, and I would take an alternative line, and I would go over 35. Like I said earlier, I think the Patriots are going to bracket JSN, and they're going to put Gonzalez likely on Shaheed on the other side, and that's going to leave Kupp some space to work over the middle. And I think he's going to find a few different 10 to 15-yard catches against the middle of our defense.
Interesting. Dave, do you have the same one or you got something different?
No, I have something, it's actually related to a topic we talked about a little earlier, but I like Sam Darnold to throw an interception. As we've seen, the Pats secondary has been on fire the entire playoffs. Sam Darnold hasn't thrown a pick since week 17. I understand that he is a much improved quarterback, but he had, I I want to say 14 or 15 picks this season. So I do think water will find its level. You know, at night in Santa Clara, the ghosts may or may not come out. Maybe we'll see. And I do think Sam Darnold will hit a Pats DB rate in the numbers.
Yeah, I think he was third in the league in interceptions, which I was surprised that 14
Exactly.
was third. I feel like it's normally a lot higher than that. But I guess just because Jets rotated quarterbacks, so they didn't have enough chances to pile up those interceptions or whatever.
Well, not to mention the fact that the Jets didn't have a single interception on defense all year, so that also
That'll do
padded
it
it down.
too. That'll do it too. Thanks for bringing that up. I totally forgot.
Can I throw out a few other ones for you, Kevin, on the betting scene?
Yeah, do it. Let's go.
I love JSN under 97 receiving yards. Patriots have only
97.
allowed 97
That's
is the
high.
line right now. I agree. Patriots have only allowed 5 players over 100 yards receiving all year, and nobody since week 10, which was Ibuka on the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I love JSN under 97. And then third, my tease of the day is going to be Patriots plus 10.5 and the under at 51.5. That just feels like taking money from a baby at the end of the day. And for all you gamblers out there, make sure to do it using alternate lines because you arbitrage all of the sports books versus just using the tease function where they get another 15 points out of you.
You know, Dave asked earlier if we were numbers guys, and I think you just answered the question. So, see, so my pick in the parlay is actually one that people would have to choose between mine and yours, Michael. So mine was Rashid Shaheed over 21.5 receiving yards. I've been riding that most of the playoffs, and it's actually worked out pretty well. But this obviously they're playing a much different defense this go around, so it's between him and Cup. I guess you decide what you think will make more sense. But I do like the JSN under one. 97 seems very high for a Super Bowl. So we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah. And
actually, I have
Kevin, one
one
thing
other
on
question.
Shaheed
Yeah,
before we move on from Shaheed, I understand he is electric, punt returns, kick returns. They don't throw him the ball that often, and I
no.
hope I'm not putting it out into the universe and he's going to get like 7, 8 targets. He has like 1 or 2 catches every single game. Granted, they're
Yep.
usually for big chunks. I'm hoping this is not the game they unleash him because he also scares me in a different way than JSN because I don't think there's many DBs in the entire league that if they bite on one of his moves will be able to catch up to him. So hopefully this is not the game that they start throwing to Rashid Shaheed and he still sticks to that 1, 2, or 3 targets a game.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. He's kind of like the remember that the Seahawks Super Bowl against the Broncos where it was like Percy Harvin did some random shit in that game. Like that's what he reminds me of just like this random fast dude that gets the ball like once or twice. So yeah, so we'll see how that one goes. All right, let's do
I think
final
that
prediction.
one's going to come down to the trenches, to be honest. It's
you
all going
hold?
to depend how much time can you hold the pass rush off and give Darnold the time for Shaheed's routes to develop.
Yeah, and just watch Darnold with the happy feet when it doesn't hold up. That's classic Darnold. All right, let's do predictions, and then I maybe have 1 or 2 more questions after that. So let's hear it. What is your final prediction for the Super Bowl? I want the score, and just remember, if you get it right, you will be clipped in infamy all across social media. So, Dave, let's go to you first. What is your final score of the Super Bowl?
All right. So I've gone back and forth on this. Do I go with my heart? Do I go with my head? But you know what, Kevin? They're on the same page. The Patriots have something, or should I say someone, that I think gives them a sizable advantage that we haven't really talked about much yet. It gives them those advantages in the slim margins that often is what decides Super Bowls. And his name's Mike Vrabel. Keep an eye out for a moment or two, whether it be a timely substitution like he did right before the pick in the AFC Championship game that got Stidham's operation all sped up, some clock manipulation to kill the clock at the end of the half and get that last possession, or just a general situational masterclass that swings the game in the Pats' favor. So I'm going to go with 24-20. Drake May will become the youngest starting quarterback to ever lift the Lombardi Trophy. Mike Vrabel will become the first ever to win a championship as a player and coach of the same team. And the New England Patriots will become the first franchise in NFL history with 7 Super Bowl titles. Over to our unbiased
Wait,
NFL
can I ask you
journalist, Mike.
one more question before I throw up?
Of course.
Who is your MVP of the Super Bowl? Is it Drake?
I don't think the Pats win this game unless Drake May is the MVP, because I think between his legs and those splash plays that I talked about on the run a little while ago, I think he has to make a few of those to have a chance to win. So I don't really foresee a path with a Pats victory and Drake not winning MVP, unless for whatever reason Christian Gonzalez has 2 pick sixes or Travion has 5 carries for 150 and 2 touchdowns, something like that. I do think it would be Drake May if the Pats were to win.
All right, Michael, over to you. What do you got?
All right. I'm pretty in line with Siegel here. My gut has us at Patriots 20, Seahawks 16. That's my gut right now. And to answer your MVP question, I think that in a battle right there where you're limiting the Seahawks to 16 points, I think it's going to be a defensive player, and I think it's going to be Milton Williams on the interior, disrupting the entire game for the Seahawks.
That would be so sick if an interior D lineman wins MVP. I don't know if it'll happen, but that would be awesome. Actually, it wouldn't be awesome because the Patriots would win. So, no, never mind. I take it all back. All right, so we got 24-20.
How about a question for you, Ducky, or Kevin? How about a question for you? Which is your preferable scenario? Seeing Darnold win a Super Bowl in a non-Jets jersey after drafting him 3rd overall, or seeing the Patriots win in their 7th?
Oh, 100%. Gotta see Sam win a Super Bowl. I will never, ever. The only way I would ever root for the Patriots to win a Super Bowl is if they were playing another one of our division rivals literally in the Super Bowl, which is impossible. Because I think I have this weird thing in my mind where it's I've already dealt with the Patriots winning so much that it's I'd rather the Bills still not win one, and I'd rather still the Dolphins not win one while I'm alive. So that's the only scenario. And I know it's literally impossible for it to happen. So, but my
Don't you think this is a different Patriots team? I understood the hatred for the Brady and Belichick years and everybody rooting against them. This is a new team. The only thing that's the same is the name on the front of the jersey, and Kraft is the owner. Everything else about the team is different. We raised and developed May into the system, brought in Vrabel as a new head coach. Everybody on the team is lovable.
It doesn't mean I have to love them, though. The name on the shirt on the jersey still pisses me off. So, but I will say, I am having a very difficult time with Drake May because I need to hate him so passionately, but he doesn't do anything that's very hateable. So, I really need him to his head to blow up after this Super Bowl and become a cocky jerk, so that I can really hate him like a good rival should. But it's been hard. It's been tough this year. I do have my prediction though, because I can't have this be an all Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl no matter what thing. So I've got my boy Sam Darnold and the wagon that is the Seattle Seahawks right now, winning the Super Bowl 31-24, 7-point game. I think it's going to be a really close Super Bowl. I have a very tough time seeing this being one of those like that Rams Patriots Super Bowl that was just so boring and what was it, 10-3 the final score. I really think 13-3. So it feels like this is going to be a really good one. I hope it comes down to the wire. And obviously for me, I hope my boy Sam Darnold wins, becomes Super Bowl MVP, and we can all say we drafted a Super Bowl winning quarterback. We did it. All right, my final question. We only got a couple minutes left before we wrap this up. Will Josh McDaniels get in the Hall of Fame before Bill Belichick?
That's
how many
a silly
Super Bowls?
question, Kevin.
How many Super Bowls has he been in?
Josh McDaniels or Bill Belichick?
Josh McDaniels. He has to be the most successful offensive coordinator of all time at this point. I can't even think of someone who would have more.
Easily. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a kind of a blessing in disguise that he's largely incompetent running an operation as a head coach because that's forced him to come back multiple times. But sticking with, Bill Belichick not getting in on a first ballot. I know we're going off tangent.
No, that's the real question. What do you guys think about the Bill Belichick thing?
It's an absolute travesty, Kevin. I think obviously Jets fans, I'm sure, have their own opinions of Bill Belichick for what they did to them way back in the day. But the fact that who many people see as the greatest head coach of all time, like, I don't think there's many people that would debate that, did not get in on the first ballot because of some senior candidates that weren't good enough to get in on the real ballot in their 60s or 70s. So it's like throwing out a charity case. It honestly makes the NFL Hall of Fame look kind of like a joke in a sense. And I know Bill Polian's been in the news a lot lately. I do think I believe him in when he said that he did vote for Bill, but I have no
He
doubt
didn't
in
even
my mind.
remember.
Exactly.
He
But I have no
remembered.
doubt in my
He
mind
still won't tell you.
he brought it up. He brought Spygate up to kind of stir the pot a little bit, to get some of the other writers, some of the other voters listening. And I think he was so confident that he would sway at least 10 of them that he's like, all right, I'll still vote for Bill, but I know what I just put out into the universe will sway enough voters, so I'm going to come out scot-free. So Bill Polian, we could go on for hours about him. He actually had Tom Brady at the top of his draft board back in the day as well. He's come
Sure.
out and said that, even though
Uh-huh.
they passed on him probably 6, 7,
5
8
rounds.
times. But so yeah.
Yeah.
So Bill
Well,
Polian, can't really trust him.
the crazy part is 10 people voted against Belichick or didn't vote for Belichick. So that's the wild part. It's not just Bill. He did convince people. But Michael, what are your thoughts on it?
It's just time to change the system. The voting system is just broken at the end of the day. If this is a possibility and ultimately what happened here, it's just time for the system to change. Whether it's making everybody's votes public so that they lose credibility in their own sports writing worlds for their voting habits, or changing who is voting here. I understand that NFL writers and people that follow the game are super involved, but maybe it should be former coaches, former players, former people that actually were on the field that are actually voting here, instead of people that were just around the game.
I think, too, even with how much America has hated Bill Belichick, if you just polled America, everyone would say, yes, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's many people that would say no. Even as a Jets fan, the way I look at it is he paid, like, the NFL said, here was your punishment for Spygate, for other things that he's done. He paid his price. You can't hold that against him now. This is a problem I have with baseball, too. With I do like how some writers will show their ballots, but in the NFL they don't. So I agree. Accountability there. It's and I don't understand why you have to cap it. Why is it only 3 people out of the 6 or whatever that you're voting for? Why can't all 6 get in? I don't know. If they're all worthy, vote for them. So I don't know. It's tough. I do think Bill Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame because he was the greatest Jets coach of all time. So obviously he'll go in as a Jet. Oh God, it's so sad. It's so sad. All right, boys. Well, this was awesome. Do you guys have any maybe final thoughts? Anything else going into the Super Bowl, or do you feel like we've covered everything? Michael, anything else you want to add?
No, I think all I can say from here on out is go Pats from an independent football advisor.
Yeah, super independent. Actually, tell me this: if the Pats win the Super Bowl, what do you guys do? Like when you win a Super Bowl, are you with your family? Do you celebrate with them? Do you go run in the street? Like what is the game plan if they win in the last second? Michael, go ahead.
I will actually be terrorizing Long Island. I am, as Kevin knows, a new Long Island resident here, and I've been drinking the tears of Jets fans for multiple years here living in New York. And I will be making it known throughout the entire neighborhood that the person that just moved in just had another incredible night, winning another Super Bowl.
You're painting the house red and blue, Patriot logo on the side.
Patriot flag out front.
I love it. That's hilarious. Thank you for being so independent throughout this. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I have to side with the independent NFL fan, the Rob Lowe of the podcast here. Just go Pats. We're back. I think it's been funny to see. I've seen the meme going around that, the Chiefs dynasty is over, rejoice. And then you turn your head and the Patriots are back. I don't think there's a Patriots fan out there. If they say this, they're lying, that expected to be here. So I think everybody's just enjoying the ride. Obviously, we'll be heartbroken if it doesn't go our way. But at the end of the day, this season, we're ahead of schedule. This season has surpassed everybody's expectations. And if and when the Patriots do lift that Lombardi trophy for the seventh time, I'll be pouring a nice glass of bourbon, celebrating with my wife, my dog, my family, and all will be right in the world, Kevin. The Patriots are back, back on top where we belong, and I just can't wait for the game on Sunday.
Unbelievable.
Can I ask one more question, Kevin?
Yeah.
My last one for you, Dave, which is actually a question that Kevin asked me about a week and a half ago that I'm surprised didn't come up today, is where would you rank this season's run in Patriots Super Bowl runs in your Patriots fan career?
Assuming they win, or just in general?
Just in general, years that we've made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think this one was the most unexpected, obviously. Obviously, the years of having Tom Brady, you you expected to at least be in the AFC Championship game every single year. You know, you saw the roster, you're like, all right, is 12 still there? Is Bill still on the sideline? We'll fill in the rest. We know we'll be there at the end. This year, going in with such low expectations, it was almost freeing in a way because everybody assumed they would be improved. They had a system. They had Vrabel. They brought in all these guys. You were just hoping for improvement, challenge for a wild card. Drake May shows development. So all that to say, it's almost more enjoyable in a different way because it was so unexpected. We didn't expect to be here. We expected or we hoped that Drake May was the guy. I think that is 100% the case now that we have found our quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. And so with that said, I think it's near the top just based on how surprising it was and how pleasant of a surprise it was. And we're ahead of schedule. Nobody expected us to be here, but we're here. And you know what? If they are to lift that Lombardi, it's gonna be a euphoric experience, Kevin. It really is. They never get old. They really never get old. Even after 7, it still wouldn't get old.
I wouldn't know. Michael, why don't you give your answer to that question too?
I was right there with you, Siegs. I ranked this number 3. Number 1 was the Patriots' first Super Bowl. Number 2 was the undefeated season, and this would be my third. For all the reasons you just outlined here, it's just felt different this year. Going into any game and having that 50-50 type feeling, could we win, could we lose? Versus, as you mentioned, in the Brady era, it was always just assumed that we would be in the championship game every single year. And so this year has just felt different, and it has felt it's bringing all those emotions back that you almost get doled out over the course of 6 Super Bowl victories.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in second grade and have never seen the Patriots win a Super Bowl. That must be so devastating for all those young Patriot fans out there. Oh, God, killer. Must be nice, guys. Must be nice. Well, you know, the good thing for me is I probably feel the same thing you feel when we just win one game. Like when we get that win, I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is euphoric. Let's go party in the streets. All right, gents. Well, this has been 50-plus minutes of going back and forth about the Super Bowl. I really appreciate both of you joining. I would wish you good luck, but I really am not going to. I hope you have fun watching the first half, I guess. We'll say that. And this was great. I think we should do this again. I would love to talk post, maybe post draft or before the draft, something like that, just to see where our teams are at and where they're going from here. For everybody listening, thank you for making it this far. If you did, if you could follow JuicyJet25 all across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, please like, rate, review, subscribe, follow, all the good things. I appreciate everybody for listening and joining, and we will talk to you post Super Bowl. See ya.